Everyone, welcome back. This is Around Campus, the college football podcast. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, back alongside Mike Richards, Sportsnet 960 The Fan, Calgary. Catch him on the Raw Mike Richards show. I was glad to be on the show this past Sunday. You check that out on Spotify, but you check this out up on Specialty Media on YouTube as well. Thank you for everybody who supports it. And we got the national championship game Monday night. The Miami Hurricanes, taking on the Indiana Hoosiers. This is going to be a great game. Sorry about your Oregon Ducks, Mike. It wasn't even close, that game. And we talked about it last week when we previewed the semifinals. If you give Kirk Cignetti and Indiana any opening, they're going to run through the doors off the game, and it wasn't even close after the first half. And I'll say this when we talk about the preview, I'll bring this up again. Miami wants to play like they did against Ole Miss, where they want to take stupid penalties and keep the game close. Indiana's going to make this one a very painful for everybody in Miami.
The one thing that Cignetti has done with this program is they're very opportunist. They will take advantage if you give the ball away, if you get penalties. And in the case of Oregon, we knew Davison wasn't going to play, but once Whittington went down early, so now they have no running game, which is the heart of what they do. So even if both were healthy, I think you and I were both on the side of Indiana anyway. Even being a Ducks fan, you have to be a realist. But that just took the game away. So the game wasn't even a game. It wasn't close. And then we see that Deontay Moore is coming back, is decided to come back for another year, which is 1,000% the right thing to do. I think sometimes kids get in there and obviously it's tough to tell someone to not take the money. I mean, this is where over years in different leagues where, especially in college basketball, they're saying, you shouldn't be doing the one and dones and, you should be staying. And it's like, well, you didn't stay. The other generation, sort of telling them that they have to stay. Well, why do I have to stay when you didn't stay? You got the money. Now, it's tough to tell an individual, depending on his circumstance, that you can't go out and you can't get that money. However, I think smarter minds are prevailing here, and him going back obviously is good for the program. But I think it's better for him because sometimes you find yourself in not only have a better season, a better outcome to the season, but of course, there's those in the draft that you don't have to go up against. So I think that, first and foremost, my take on what happened with Oregon. In this game for Sig and his team, it's 8.5. I think right now the line.
That's a little high for me. That's a little high for me. I'm be honest. I said this on our buddy Rob Peterson's show on Thursday. If I was a betting man, I'm taking Miami plus 8.5 right now. I think that's way too high. I know. I am on the drum of, if Indiana, if you give them mistakes, they'll make this a blowout game because Cignetti's like, we just don't beat top 25 teams. We kill top 25 teams. And he's right. They do. They put up 50 every time. But I just think Miami's defense can keep this game closer than what they did to Alabama and what they did to Oregon. And I think the Miami's more of a complete team than either one of those teams were.
Well, to me, in looking at this game, the pressure is very simple. They're going to have to find a way to get to Mendoza. So when you look at like Mesidor and Bain Jr., so that rush has to find a way to get him to hurry the ball. I'm not saying they sacks would be great, but even just to not give him the kind of time, because look, the Hoosier offensive line's pretty good, but they're not all world. I mean, if you want to look at an offensive line that really has played that way, the Hurricanes, I think they average about 330 pounds. I mean, they're just monsters. There are times where they really do NFL-like. And then when you see Fletcher running the ball the way that he can, like there is a small line in which, do I see an upset? I would give that maybe a 10% chance or something like that.
But I had a question for you, Mike. But I got a question for you. Is it really an upset? Because to me, Miami, when they play, are a top 5 team in college football. Like, I've watched them all year. The only way Miami beats them, and you beat Miami, is if they beat themselves. And the 2 games they lost this year, they beat themselves.
I still say it's an upset because Indiana, to me, is the best team in the country. So
I agree with that 100%. I agree with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is why you look at the reaction that Notre Dame had, and now you got to look at it and go, we should have shut up. They're in the national championship. We shouldn't have said anything.
I think the argument with Notre Dame was Alabama. I think to me, I don't know if it was Miami so much. I think it was Alabama. If we want to go back to who should have been in.
And people got twisted over this, right? So they got twisted over Alabama, but there was many that thought the Hurricanes shouldn't even be there. And, this is why I think the playoff system isn't as bad as people are making it out to be. It's like, oh, how did this team get in? How did well, if you show me a better format, if you show me something that looks better than what this is, then I'm all ears. But to my knowledge, I haven't seen anything better so far than what they have. And when you have teams getting to the semifinals that you got an Oregon in there, you got an Indiana in there. I mean, yeah, sure, Ole Miss was a crazy story, and then Miami, they're deserved of where they beat. Like look, the thing about football is kind of like boxing or UFC. If I knock you out, then you got to shut up. There's nothing you can say. I don't want to hear about refereeing. I don't know about who was hurt at the time. Like Oregon's not going to blame their entire season because they didn't have running backs. You potentially were going to lose anyway to a really, really good team. Well, you're going to sit there and blame it on injuries.
No, and Dan Lanning said that in his post-game press conference. He's like, look, I could sit here and talk about who we didn't have in the lineup. I got to give credit to Kirk Cincinnati and Indiana. That's a heck of a football team over there. Like they were well prepared. I mean, the first play, and that's the thing with Cincinnati and Indiana. Like some of the plays Miami's running, like those short screen passes, they like to move Fletcher out of the back. How they move Malachi Tony
Tony's a big part of this. Part of this.
But the way Indiana scouts and like the pick six on the first play against Oregon, off the little screen, like that's coaching. That's studying film.
That is coaching. That is coaching.
That like there's little nuances of the game. They're like, how did he read that right away? Film session. Everybody tells me 10 days is too much. Well, guess what? When you have 10 days to prepare and things like that happen, that's why Kirk Cincinnati and Indiana, if they complete it, it's already one of the best stories in college football in the history of the game. The fact that they were a perennial loser, like forever, hadn't won national titles since the 50s, perennial loser in the Big Ten. This guy comes in 2 seasons and has got them in a national championship game.
Well, it's a program that never won 10 games.
No.
They never won 10 games.
In like decades, they hadn't won 10 games.
Yeah. No. So I again, it's a home game for Miami.
Quote unquote home game, because I do think the Indiana crowd's going to be there.
Huge. No, they'll be huge. But in terms of, I think of obviously geographically, but when you can, sometimes sleep in your own beds, there's a lot of things that go into it. The pros will talk about that. I think that, and the hometown, boy, Mendoza out there, like there's so many storylines, but I think it's going to come down to a couple of things. Number one, Miami has to be methodical and they cannot panic. If they get into a situation where, they make Beck have to force some decisions, he's got to be very patient. He's got to look, similar to like what he did against Ohio State. Like that's the Beck that you want to see, because Mendoza has been just sensational. And I still think at the end of the day, it might be chunk plays, because you've got Cooper and you've got Sarrett, and they find ways to always get open. And I don't see them being manhandled in terms of, I think nationally, Miami in chunk plays is like 89th or something. So they will give that up, and Mendoza can find a way to get the ball to it. Now, again, the pendulum swings if Mendoza doesn't have that kind of time to get them the ball. So that's the chess game. That's really it. I think Fletcher's going to get some yards. I think Tony's going to get some yards. But does Miami at times, or at a crucial time, give up a chunk play? That if I'm a Hurricane fan, that's what I'm afraid of. But it's all predicated once again on that front four getting pressure from Miami, because they didn't do a great job against Ole Miss.
Ole Miss ran up tempo speed. Yes. They moved the ball quickly. Like Indiana, you mentioned the pressure. Indiana doesn't do that, right? Mendoza takes his time, goes through his reads, tries to hit the back shoulder throw on guys on the out route. So they may have a little bit more time to get to him, though the Indiana front seven, they're really good. Their offensive line is really, really good, and their running backs know how to block. But if they can just get in there just enough to throw off his timing, I agree with you. We've seen this throughout the history of not only college football, but the history of the NFL when we go to some of these Super Bowl games with the defenses, you just break up the rhythm of a quarterback. It throws the entire game off. We just saw what the Eagles did to Patrick Mahomes. We've seen it with the Giants against, the Patriots, the 2 years that they won, the timing on Brady. You get a good quarterback to miss his timing on some of his throws. That's when they can take advantage. But you said chunk plays. I'm saying chunk plays on both sides of the football because Miami cannot take pre-snap penalties and they cannot put themselves at 1st and 20, 1st and 15 against or 2nd and 20 against a team like Indiana because that's when they strike.
Well, they got some ball hawks. They have some ball hawks. And that's why, I think to have a very disciplined game, if Crystal Ball is going to have, an idea of it, to me, it's like, I just want to take all that clock. I want to take as much clock as I can, and I think I can do it. I think I've got the players to do it. As I said, getting Malachi Toney, whether he's, running the ball or you're throwing, to Fletcher out of the backfield. Like I'd want to see them methodically kind of take the clock away. And at the same time, defensively, I got to get that front four and I got to get after it. So, I mean, that to me, that's the whole game. That's the whole game. If Miami gets down, if somehow they find themselves getting down, then this thing could get ugly and it could get ugly fast.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. If they go down 7-0 early, then it's a turnover. Then they like they said it. Or Indiana against Oregon, 28 points on turnovers.
Yes.
Plus 28 points on turnovers. That was the game.
Yeah,
that was the game. If they even do plus 14 against Miami, it's over. I think Indiana, I'm taking my fandom out of this because I always root for the Hurricanes because I'm a big Hurricane guy. This, for both sides of the football, both teams have not seen a team like this all season. I think Indiana's a little bit more tested because they had to go through Oregon twice. They had to go through Penn State. They had to go through Ohio State. They beat up on Alabama, which you can agree what Alabama was this year. Miami, some of the games they've played, their losses to me still stand out. Can Carson Beck can he not have the bad interception, the bad timing interception? Can he make the throw? Can he have another play like he did against Ole Miss? Because I think as we see with Sam Darnold with the Seahawks and his reputation, I don't think people are still sold on Carson Beck as a guy that can get you to a national championship. If he wins this game and it's because of him, then the story changes. But I still think there's a lot of doubt behind Carson Beck right now.
Well, I'm still the show me state on that one too.
Yeah,
I'm still waiting for him, and I still see a guy that has made some very good decisions. And people talk about his last 6 to 8 games that he has played, how good he has played, and I'm not going to disagree with that at all. However, he has to stick to a very disciplined game. And I said, I'll go back to what they did against Ohio State. It has to look like that. Ohio State played a bum game. There's no question. I mean, they just could not figure out. I mean, they could, and to a degree, I know there's coaching challenges and how people feel about, Cristobal and so on. However, he made the right schemes at the right time that made Ohio State look almost relatively lame. But I think that's going to be a tough trick to pull that against Indiana. I think this game, if someone said, "What is it 7 points?" Yeah, I mean, I think but again, it crossed the line. It crossed to 7. Now it's crossed an 8. I think a lot of the sharp money probably will be if you're looking at it, that way. I think there's going to be a lot of plus 8.5 bettors out there. I mean, that's what I see. As you know, I love the props. Love the props.
So shall we get into those prop bets? Shall we?
Let's get into those prop bets. Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm taking, for me, I'll give me Fletcher in his yards all day in this game. I think he can run the football against Indiana. We've seen it. We saw it in the regular season. You can run on this Indiana team. And I'm going to say this though, Mendoza will do what he does for Indiana because their wide receivers will get open. Sherrod will get his touches as well because, as you said it, Ohio State, though, if they went to Jeremiah Smith more, you can expand the defensive backs of Miami. So I'm interested to see how those wide receivers do in this game.
Yeah, it's going to set up a lot of things. I think even Roman Hemby, which he sometimes gets overlooked. But what I always try to do, because I'm, what's the word? Oh, yeah, greedy.
Yeah.
They try to can I get 10 times my money? I want 10 times my money. Well, this is not very big. So I'm using FanDuel. And as always, because it's Again, like going to your favorite buffet. I don't like that, but I'll take a little bit of this. So you go with some of the alternate yards, and this is pretty good. I don't know. I don't think so. If Surratt gets 50 yards, which again would be an under for him, I'm not sure what his actual number would be, but I'm taking 50 plus yards. I think Hemby also runs for 50 plus yards. I don't even have Cooper on here. I'll probably take a look at that. I don't even have Cooper on this or Mendoza's throwing. So I'm just taking those two from Indiana for 50 yards. I see Malachi Tony in different ways, but receiving yards, he's getting 50 yards because he's going to find his way. I mean, that's what, 3, 4 catches. That's 50 yards.
And he can break a big one too. He can break a big.
He can get on one play.
Yeah.
So I don't, again, and 50 yards for Fletcher because he has to get at least that. But I think he does get his yards. And if I take an alternative spread, once again, here comes the greed. I'm taking Indiana -5.5.
Wow.
So even if it was a weird overtime game where you're like, you got to be under that 6 or your parlay dead. So that is 8.73 times your money.
Oh, big money, big money. Yo, Richards is a greedy man. Yeah, I like it.
Very greedy.
I like it. I like those plays. I agree. I think Hermbe's overlooked. I think, Fletcher's going to be a factor. I think the game will be won inside the line of scrimmage, and it should be a good national championship game. I don't foresee a blowout. I really don't. I'm
hoping it's not because blowouts suck.
They do. And, you touched on Dante Moore earlier, and I didn't want to – I was holding my commentary to after we talked about the game, but I agree with you. Staying in school is the right decision because if you listen to Greg McElroy, if TSN shows the ESPN stuff, he talked about it after the game. Dante Moore's not ready to come out.
No.
He still has mechanical issues, feet timing, all this stuff. He's not a Sunday guy yet. He can be that. Yeah, he has the talent to be that. But the NFL is not a developmental league. The NFL does not have a developmental league. College is not a developmental league anymore. Not what it used to be. And now guys can stay because of NIL money. But the quarterback class is very weak this year outside of Mendoza. And again, it could get weaker if Trinidad Chambliss wins his appeal to the courts about having a 6th year and he could go back to school. So, I mean, if he goes back to school, this class already stinks and it's going to get even worse. But these teams, this is where I think advising players to stay in school is a good thing now because some of them aren't ready. And if you go to a poor team with no protection, with no offensive line, their skills don't develop at the right pace. And there's no feeder league to have them go down to develop and work on their mechanics. Realistically, if the CFL could afford it, Dante Moore would be really good up there for a couple of years, go develop his game with a team, and then go to the NFL. But that right now, that partnership really doesn't exist.
Yeah, in years gone by, that is really a big part of what the CFL was. So if you didn't like what you saw in the pros or back in the days where they didn't want black quarterbacks, so Warren Moon, came up and played for Edmonton. And then when Huey Campbell went down and ran the Oilers, they brought him brought him back down after they had like 5 championships. They bring Warren Moon back down again. The first thing they want to do is they want to make him like a slot back or something. Like they just did not at that time have any faith in black quarter. It seems weird now that we even have this discussion, but that was the reality of it. I mean, I've talked to Warren Moon. This is what
it's the reality.
He was up against.
Happened.
There was a weird prejudice, and most of it didn't have to do with athletics. They thought that from an intellectual standpoint, this doesn't get more racist than this, that they didn't have the capacity, which was it's just awful to think about. But that's what they were up against. Then you have others that thought they should go higher, maybe in a draft, and didn't. So the Joe Theismanns of the world came up here. There's been tons of stories where guys come up here. Even Jeff Garcia, who was up here, goes back down and plays. The list is long, and that's okay. You get to see these guys, the Doug Flutys of the world, who came up here. I mean, and they all loved their time up here because there's 3 downs. It's a wider field. You have to go out there and it's like wide open, like it's run and gun, baby. If you don't like that, you got 2 downs to make. Essentially, you have 3 downs, but it's 2 downs to make that first down. So guess what? You got to throw that ball. I mean, it's a great league. Like I really do love the CFL, but that's what I'm saying. We get to talk all football. I mean.
Right.
a lot of times when people get so in love with the NFL, and I get it, it's the biggest, baddest league in the entire planet for football. But college football to me is where, if you really want to take an interest in the guys that get drafted by your team, who was their coach? What did it look like? What was that offense? What conference were they in? Because they all tend to build the player that comes out. If you talk about someone, and now it's changed a little bit now, but if someone told me, an SEC player versus a Pac-12, or what's the Big Ten, or what does it look like? Already, when you tell me what program they went to, I know what that player looks like anyway, because it's what they produce. A little less now, and of course there is no Pac to 8, 9, 10, 12, whatever. It was Pac 8 when I was in Eugene,
Pac
Oregon.
8, yeah, Pac 8.
It was Pac 8 back
8
then.
became Pac 12. Yeah, I mean it's the game has changed, evolved. College football's evolved. The guys used to stay for 3-4 years. Guys developed in college. Like, we all knew everybody got paid anyway under the table to just stay at their program, just because that's why Alabama and Georgia and all those teams were so good for so many years. The backup stayed because they knew next year they were going to be the starter. And even if they weren't, they knew they were going to get time, and their time was coming, but they developed. So when all the seniors left, the juniors came in, and the sophomores who were ready, the program just kept winning and being undefeated and winning national championships and whatever. Now guys are leaving. The backups are leaving because they don't get the playing time, but they're not getting better because they're trying to find a better situation somewhere for themselves.
They're not getting better. And then, again, you always have to take a look at the program. And if I'm looking at a quarterback coming out of the given program, I want to know that the program they came from ran a pro-style offense, because sometimes they don't. It's college ball. It is not the same. The clocks are different. The substitutions are different. And if you go back to like the Chip Kelly days, where they were running a play every
5 seconds.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. So then you have a guy like Marcus Mariota, who in his own right is strong quarterback, great athleticism. But the transfer to the NFL, it didn't happen the way I think a lot of people thought it would. But that's not how offenses are run in the NFL. So, like, so he's become what, a bit of a journeyman. He,
pretty good backup.
A great backup. But it was never going to be that thing that we saw back in the day. So
that's why I'm concerned about Mendoza going to the Raiders or wherever he's going to land. Because
I agree.
Cignetti's offense is so unique to college football. While Mendoza has the skill set and the belief in himself, I'm not sure that's going to translate to the NFL. Everybody say, "Oh, he's going to be a great NFL guy." I don't know that.
Yeah, I also think in college, where you can do what he does now, which is closer to high school than it is college, but when he just runs and he goes head first, like Mendoza will just run. I'm like, well, he'll die. He'll die a painful death. You cannot. Yeah. Look, if RG3 couldn't figure it out, and he didn't, I have no idea how good a quarterback he could have been, because he just wasn't going out of bounds, and he took some hits, and that was it. I mean, it's very unforgiving. The closing speed in the NFL is frightening.
It's light years difference. Yes. It's a light year difference, and guys got to learn. So, I mean, I'm just glad Dante Moore went back to school, because it's the right decision for him. It's the right decision. I don't care about his draft stock so much. Like, everybody's like, oh, his draft stock could fall, this and that. You know what? If he can make it in the NFL and he gets developed and his skill set, to me, if his skill set improves to where, all right, well, we may not take him in the first round now, but we can get him in a second round, and that could be our guy for the future, I'd rather have that. Because you take him in the first round and he's still not ready, or you don't have the tools surrounding him to be successful, he's going to flop out in a couple of years, and the team's just going to be like, Browns or Cardinals, where they're like, oh, we took Josh Rosen. Oh, but we like this new toy in Kyler Murray. But Kyler Murray wasn't ready. You could have just developed Rosen and you would have been fine.
Yeah, the other aspect to this is, and I think it's important for the Oregon program, which is because of Lanning, it was easy for him to come back, because that's the kind of coach he is. Yeah. Those guys love him. That's how you build programs. And that's why I think a lot of people, when they look at Lane Kiffin, they're like, well, how close do you want to get to this guy? Because I saw his car is still running and the bags are packed. Like, you just don't know if he's going to be, either he's going to leave or be asked to leave. So, I mean, what's he going to do at LSU? I don't know. But the whole world's going to be watching. And they're all thinking the same thing. They want to see failure. Let's not kid ourselves. People want to see Lane Kiffin, whether you agree with it or not. I still think there's a lot. on the blood on the hands of the NCAA, where they make coaches have to make these decisions when they do. So there's a part of me that does not blame Lane Kiffin in that way, but
No.
it's his whole persona. Like, it's just people just want to punch him, right?
Yeah.
So the thing that he's going to go down an LSU program after Brian Kelly, there's going to be a lot of people they just want to see misery, and because that's who we are. We love to see sadness. That's our world. That's our world, Jimmy. Make someone cry.
But
then
we
we're
hope
happy.
we hope we don't have that sadness on Monday in the national championship game. We don't want to be turning off the TV after the first half. We want to be locked in. We want our bets to hit. We want everything to be all sunshine and roses.
And that happens, as you said, when the bets hit. Once again, as Gordon Gekko said in Wall Street, greed is good.
Absolutely. And you know what else is good? This episode of Around Campus College Football Podcast. I'm Jim Biringer. Mike Richards, Sportsnet 960, The Fan out in Calgary. On Mike Richards Show. Check them out. Guys, again, up on Specialty Media. Like, subscribe, comment. Let us know your picks as well. We'll be back again. Take care.